Hi, my name is Cody Melton, and this is my presentation on Lewis structures for single sensor molecules for molecular transformations in the fall of 2020. So first off, what is a Lewis structure? Well, Lewis structures were created by a chemist at UC Berkeley by the name of Gilbert N. Lewis. He made them as a way to represent bonds and atoms and other simple molecules with the valence electrons. Lewis structures are visual representations of the atoms or the molecules. That is an elemental symbol surrounded by the valence electrons in each quadrant around that symbol. And Lewis structures follow the octet rule. Remember, the octet rule states that atoms tend to favor electron configurations that result in a filled electron shell. In our case, this is 8 electrons. Drawing Lewis structures. You must first identify the element and the number of valence electrons using the periodic table. The valence electrons are identified by the group the element's found in, applying mainly to the first 3 rows of the periodic table, with some exceptions like hydrogen and helium. You then fill each quadrant with a dot to represent the valence electrons. Before filling one quadrant with 2 dots, you must first fill in each quadrant on every side with a single dot. When making Lewis structures for molecules, you must first identify the central atom. For example, in H2O, water, oxygen is the central atom connected by a single bond to 2 separate hydrogen atoms. You then draw single bonds attaching each additional molecule to the central atom. After this, you draw the remaining valence electrons on each quadrant surrounding each elemental symbol. Lewis structures for single atoms can be found using the periodic table. You first identify the element, you then check the group of the element to find the number of valence electrons. The first group being hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium. These all have a single valence electrons, while the second group has 2, the third group has 3, up until the noble gases have 8 valence electrons. When drawing molecules with Lewis structures, you must first find the total number of valence electrons for each atom in the molecule. You then identify the central atom of the molecule. You draw the bonding electron for each atom to the central molecule, and then draw additional bonds for atoms that allow double and triple bonding. Fill the quadrants with the remaining valence electrons. As you can see here in ethylene and acetylene, carbon allows for 4 bonds, so the carbons create double bonds to meet the octet rule. Here is a Lewis structure of a molecule that demonstrates the type of bonds that can be shown with Lewis structures. On the left is a single bond between the hydrogen and oxygen, a triple bond between 2 carbons, a double bond between 2 carbons, and leftover electrons that have lone pairs on the chlorine atom attached to the carbon.